My guess is you may have come for a number of reasons today. I think that the events that are happening over these couple of weeks are really good. Sometimes when people think about Christianity and God and Jesus, I think we think that God is someone who wants to take stuff away from us. But I think the conviction of this Christian group, and I think the conviction of the Bible, is that God actually wants to give us more than we can imagine. And what God has on offer in Jesus is good. And it's a really good offer. So this whole idea of more is really good, I think. And today, as we talk about more friendship, you might have rocked up today because you actually want more friends. That might be why you came. Or you might have been chased by Pac-Man in here, or the ghost, or however that happened. I'm not sure how you arrived today. Maybe a friend has dragged you along. Maybe you have been really looking forward to being here. But I guess, as Tim has already alluded to, we do live in a time where it is really easy to make connections. It is really easy to make friends, at least through technology and through the social media revolution. There are countless opportunities to stay connected to one another. Opportunities to connect with your next door neighbour, not just over the fence, but over the internet. Opportunities to connect with long lost school friends, or maybe even opportunities to connect with some random on the other side of the world who is also interested in collecting stamps or whatever it is that your bizarre interest may well be. It is really easy to make connections. Show of hands if you have a Facebook account. Show of hands. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. You are one of 750 million people. Welcome. That is amazing. That if Facebook were a country, it would be the third biggest country in the world. They're connecting a lot of people through this online medium called Facebook. Just a quick show of hands. Did anyone go through the MySpace phase? Yeah? Has anyone, put your hand up if you went through that phase? Okay. Keep your hand up if you've still got an account. Hey, we've got a couple, we've got one, we've got two, and you actually check it. Okay. We don't really have anyone who's still on MySpace. But MySpace was kind of big for a while. It was an opportunity to connect with one another. Facebook is obviously still very big. How long will that last for? Who knows? Maybe it's so interwoven into our social fabric that it's not going to leave for a while. Who knows? One of the other big players is Twitter, and that's kind of increasing as we speak. There's about 250 million people on Twitter. Who's on Twitter? Who's on Twitter? You can find me, Dave Myers, at Dave Myers. You can find me on there. It's kind of something that it's been really grabbed hold of by pop culture and television, and there's opportunities to interact with TV shows as they happen via Twitter and have your tweet on the screen or have someone live on the show interact with what you're talking about. And so these technologies really are quite amazing in the opportunities to connect with other people. A quick show of hands if you've heard of Google+. Hand up if you've heard of it. Well done, lots have heard of it. Keep your hand in there if you have a Google+ account. Okay, half the hands dropped. Google+ is Google's latest attempt at basically taking down Facebook. They tried it a couple of years ago, they failed, and so here they go again. After 2 weeks, if you haven't heard of Google+, it's only been around for about a month and a half, 2 months, and it's still by invite only. So if you haven't heard of it, your friends aren't telling you about it. They haven't invited you to it. But within 2 weeks of Google+ starting, there was 10 million users, which is phenomenal on an invite-only system. After 4 weeks, there was 25 million users. It's just an incredible uptake. I was reading an article recently saying it is the fastest adopted technology of its kind. That doesn't mean it's going to last. They've still got a lot of work to do to try to take down a Facebook. But basically, there's all these platforms. There's all these different platforms that make making connections easy. They really do. It is so easy to be connected with one another, not just in physical time and space, but across the planet, across airwaves, across internet cables, across national broadband networks, across all of these things. Mark Zuckerberg. Who knows who Mark Zuckerberg is? He's one of the co-founders of Facebook. Last year, 2010, he got the Time Person of the Year. That's kind of a big deal to get the Person of the Year. Some nerd who created a website becomes Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But if you've seen The Social Network, I'm not sure if you've seen the movie, one of the things that I found really interesting about that movie, even if it's not fully accurate, not every movie that's supposed to be true, exactly nails it. And so there's things that may not be consistent with truth, but by and large, lots of the thrust of it is true. And as you learn about Mark Zuckerberg in that movie, the interesting thing is you meet this guy who is responsible for connecting the world, but he's incapable of actually connecting well with people. Here's this guy who is helping the world to become friends, yet he's a lousy friend as far as the reports show and as far as that movie shows. And so as we think about these connections, it is easy to have more and more and more connections. But does Facebook actually help us to be better friends? Does Facebook actually help us to connect on a deeper level? Does Facebook actually help us to connect in a way that is meaningful? You know, I was reading an article recently on the Sydney Morning Herald, and it was talking about young people, and it was talking about how the headline said, young people are so connected, but oh so lonely. This article was saying, here is the most connected generation of all time, yet they don't know how to be alone. They don't know what it means to not be with other people. And they might have all these connections, the article was saying, but all these people are actually lacking depth in relationship. You know, they're constantly maintaining all these little networks, but never actually plumbing down deeper. You know, here's my guess. My guess is there's some of us here this afternoon who you got friends, you got friends on Facebook, you're following people on Twitter, people are following you back on Twitter, you keep up with a few friends from school, you've made some friends at uni, and you're actually longing for more. You're actually longing for more. You actually want more than what those friendships are actually offering you. You know, you may not have even realised this much before, but you actually might even struggle just to be alone for a couple of hours. My guess is there's people here right now who last night, the last thing you did before you put your head on your pillow, or even after you put your head on your pillow, was grab your smartphone and just check to make sure what was going on Facebook. You might have quickly updated your status, you might have liked something, you might have responded to something, and that was the last thing you did before you slept. There's probably even people here who last night you couldn't sleep. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, you woke up and you're like, what do I do? I can't sleep. Reach, grab your phone. Are there any of my friends up? Hey, they're up too. Hey, my American friends, of course they're up. You know, like that. That's kind of the last thing you do before you go to sleep. Some of you, if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're still connected. And then the first thing, I reckon, before you even got out of bed, before you had your breakfast, before you cleaned your teeth, is you're on there again, connecting in, checking in, being part of this relationship online. But it doesn't satisfy. Always being connected, always being digitally connected with people, I don't actually think deals with the deeper longing that we have for deeper connections. We all want friends, but we want more than just Facebook friends. Well, I'd even suggest we want and need friends that we can connect with on that deep level, friends that we can connect with and be vulnerable with. You know, this is a Christian group who's hosting this event today, Credo, and I hope that's not a shock to you. If it is, sucker, unlucky. Hey, this is a Christian group, and Christians believe that the Bible is God's word and that the Bible has lots to speak about how to live in God's world. And one of the things that the Bible affirms, and I'm sure you're not surprised by this, is the Bible affirms that friendship and relationship are good things, are good gifts from God even, and things to be enjoyed, and things to be pursued, and things to be honoured, and things to be respected. And so what we could do is we could turn to a whole bunch of different places in the Bible and get different perspectives on friendship, and get different perspectives on, I guess a number of things we could see is we could actually see examples of good friends, or examples of bad friends, and so, a how to and a how not to. I think there's a bunch of places we could go in the Bible, and that would be a really useful thing to do, seriously. There's also a book of the Bible called Proverbs. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's basically a book, 31 chapters long, that has a whole list, saying after saying after saying. It's basically a book of wisdom. And one of the things I've noticed as I've read the book of Proverbs is there's so many applications to friendship. and you read them and go, yeah, that's helpful. No wonder she doesn't like me. Yeah, no wonder I've been excluded. As you read it, it's this wisdom written a few thousand years ago, but it lines up with our reality today. And so another thing we could do right now is open the book of Proverbs and actually just learn how to do friendship well in God's world. Those things would be useful to do. And let me encourage you to do those things and to look up the Bible for those things. Yet I think the problem, if we were to do that right now, is we'd actually miss the heart of the problem with why we just don't get the relationships that we really want and the friendships that we really want. You see, our friendships and our relationships in this world have actually been marred, have actually been broken. And ultimately our friendships are marred, our relationships are broken, because one of the things that the Bible shows us is that humans have this problem with one another. There's something going on that we just keep bumping heads and we don't do relationship well. We hurt each other. Even the people we say we love, we hurt each other. Even the people that say they love you hurt you. And that is just the reality of the world we live in. Humans and humans, there's something that's broken down between the relationship of a human being with another human being in general. But even more than that, as you take a step back and look in the Bible, we actually see that there's a breakdown in relationship, even more importantly and even more devastatingly, with the God who made us and loves us. That is something that the Bible makes clear. It's not just that we have a problem with one another. The person on your left, the person on the right, the person in front, the person with the loud music downstairs, whatever it might well be. It's not just that we have problems with one another, but the Bible presents to us that we have a problem with God. We've had a breakdown in relationship with the creator of the universe. It's kind of one thing to mess up things with your best friend from primary school. It's another thing altogether to mess up things with the creator of the universe. And the implications of that are drastic. And so what we're going to do for the next few minutes is I want to paint a picture. I'm aware that I'm not just speaking to arts students who like painting pictures and drawing and colouring in and all that type of stuff and reading books and stories. I know I've got some sciencey engineering people in here, but bear with me for a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a chapter in the Bible that paints a magnificent picture. It really does. We're kind of going to take a step back and look at this canvas. And as we look at this canvas, it's a picture that is for all people who have been affected by broken relationships. It's a picture for all of us. It's a picture relevant to all of us. Whether you've thought about having a disconnected relationship with God before, maybe you've never thought of that before, but I know you've thought about having disconnected relationships with others. We're all affected by disconnected relationships, breakdowns in friendship with one another and with God. And so in the next few minutes, the picture that we're going to look at, the canvas that's going to be painted for us, is beautiful. It is magnificent. What we're actually going to see is a model and a picture of a new social network, of indeed a whole reordering of creation, a whole new ordering of humanity. And so I guess I want to be up front as before we dig into this, and there's a copy in the blue outline that you received on your way in of the part of the Bible that we're going to look at, but I want to be up front. I really want to be up front. I desperately want you to be part of this network. And I actually think what we're going to do for the next few minutes is, I don't want it to sound cheesy or lame, but there's a sense in which what we're going to be confronted with is a friend request, a reconciliation request from God. And so as we talk about it, as we get a glimpse of this image, of this canvas, of these portraits, my hope is that you'll be convinced that it is good, and I'm going to give you an opportunity at the end to actually accept the request, if that makes sense. God is creating and gathering this new humanity, this new social network. Let me be up front. I'm going to invite you at the end. I think God is inviting you to actually be part of it. And so we're going to be looking at a book of the Bible called Ephesians. Now, Ephesus was is a place in modern-day Turkey, and the book of Ephesians is basically a letter written by an early church leader, one of the foundational church leaders.